The chalice gleamed under the full moon's light, its ancient silver surface etched with runes that seemed to writhe like living things. Sarah's hands trembled as Elder Rowan thrust it toward her chest, the crimson liquid inside sloshing against the rim with a sound like whispered accusations. "Drink," he commanded, his voice carrying across the assembled pack with the weight of centuries. "Drink, and let the truth of your treachery be revealed to all." Sarah's knees pressed into the cold stone of the tribunal circle, the rough surface biting through the thin fabric of her servant's dress. Around her, hundreds of pack members formed a suffocating ring of judgment, their eyes gleaming in the darkness like predatory stars. She could feel their anticipation, their hunger for her guilt. A lowly Omega accused of poisoning the Alpha King's sister didn't deserve mercy. She deserved only the traitor's death that would follow this final test. "I didn't do it," Sarah whispered, but her voice barely carried past her own lips. No one wanted to hear her denials. They'd already decided. "The traitor's chalice never lies," Elder Rowan intoned, lifting the cup higher so moonlight caught the liquid within. "Blessed by the moon goddess herself, it reveals the truth written in blood and shadow. The innocent may drink and suffer nothing. But the guilty?" His lips curved into something too cruel to be called a smile. "The guilty dissolve from within. Their own treacherous blood turns against them, boiling in their veins until there's nothing left but ash and screaming." Sarah's breath came in shallow gasps. She'd seen a traitor's death once, when she was barely 12. The screams still haunted her nightmares, the way the woman's skin had begun to crack and peel, the smell of burning flesh, the pleading that turned to inhuman shrieks before merciful silence came. "Please." Sarah looked up, searching the crowd for a single sympathetic face. "Please, I would never hurt Lady Morgana. I've served her faithfully for 3 years. I brought her tea that night, yes, but I didn't poison it. I would never." "Enough." The voice cut through the night like a blade through silk, and every wolf present immediately fell silent, their heads bowing in automatic submission. Alpha King Darius stepped into the circle, and Sarah's heart clenched painfully in her chest. He was magnificent and terrible in equal measure, 6.5 feet of lethal grace and barely contained power. His dark hair fell across his forehead, and his eyes, silver like moonlight on steel, swept across the assembled crowd before landing on her. For 3 years, Sarah had served in his household. For 3 years, she'd watched him from the shadows, stealing glimpses of him during pack meetings, memorizing the sound of his laugh during dinners she'd helped prepare, aching with a hopeless longing she knew could never be fulfilled. An Omega and an Alpha King existed in different universes. She was born to serve, he was born to rule. But sometimes, in her most secret moments, she'd caught him watching her too. Those brief instances when their eyes would meet across a room, and something would spark between them. Something that made her wolf whimper and press against her skin, desperate to be closer to him. "My sister lies in a coma," Darius said, his voice devoid of emotion. "The healers say only the moon goddess can wake her now. The last person to enter her chambers was this Omega. The evidence is clear." "No," Sarah breathed. "Alpha King, please, I swear on my life." "Your life is already forfeit," Elder Rowan interrupted. "The only question is whether you'll die with your lies intact or with the truth burned from your throat." He thrust the chalice closer. "Drink." Sarah's eyes stung with tears she refused to shed. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. But her hands shook as she looked at the crimson liquid, knowing that if some cruel twist of fate had actually tainted her innocent delivery of tea, if somehow poison had gotten into Lady Morgana's cup through her actions even unknowingly, the chalice would condemn her regardless. "I have a son," she said desperately, her gaze finding Darius again. "He's only 5 years old. He has no one else. If I die, he'll be alone. Please, Alpha King, if you have any mercy." Something flickered in Darius's eyes, something that might have been pain, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by the cold mask of authority. The law is clear. Drink, or be executed where you kneel for refusing judgment. Sarah closed her eyes. She thought of Finn, her beautiful boy with his gap-toothed smile and wild curls. She thought of how he'd clung to her this morning, somehow sensing something was wrong, his small hands fisted in her shirt as he'd whispered, "Don't go, Mama." She should have listened. She should have run. But there was nowhere in this world an Omega could hide from an Alpha King's justice. With shaking hands, Sarah reached for the chalice. The metal was ice-cold against her palms, so cold it burned. Elder Rowan released it with a satisfied grunt, stepping back to watch her final moments. "For Finn," Sarah whispered. Then she brought the cup to her lips and drank. The liquid hit her tongue like molten metal, and Sarah gasped. It tasted like blood and moonlight and something ancient that had no name. It poured down her throat in a river of burning cold, and she felt it spread through her chest like wildfire. The crowd leaned forward, waiting for her screams. But instead of burning her from within, instead of boiling her blood and cracking her skin, the liquid began to change. Sarah felt it shifting inside her, transforming from crimson to something else, something that pulsed with power and light. She looked down and saw silver light beginning to glow beneath her skin, tracing the pathways of her veins like lightning through storm clouds. The light grew brighter, spreading from her chest to her arms, down to her hands, up her throat. What in the name of the moon goddess? Elder Rowan stumbled backward. The silver light exploded from Sarah's mouth in a cascade of luminescent threads, and she coughed, gasping as the liquid she'd swallowed came back up. But not as blood and poison, as pure, radiant silver that hung in the air like starlight made solid. The assembled pack erupted in shocked whispers and gasps. Someone screamed. Several wolves dropped to their knees in instinctive reverence. Sarah stared at her hands, watching the silver light pulse beneath her skin in time with her heartbeat. She felt different, changed. The fear that had gripped her moments ago had evaporated, replaced by a strange sense of calm clarity. She felt powerful in a way she'd never experienced before, as if something that had been locked away inside her had finally broken free. "Impossible," Elder Rowan whispered, his face pale. "The traitor's chalice has never... This has never... She's innocent." Darius's voice rang out clear and absolute, and Sarah's gaze snapped to him. He was staring at her with an expression she couldn't decipher. Shock, yes, but also something else. Something hungry and possessive that made her newly awakened power surge in response. "The chalice has revealed her truth. She did not poison my sister." "But the silver," another elder gasped. "Alpha King. The legends say only those blessed by the moon goddess herself can transmute the chalice's test into silver light. Only those marked for greatness. Only those destined for..." The elder cut himself off, his eyes widening as he looked between Sarah and Darius. "Destined for what?" Sarah asked, her voice stronger now, carrying across the circle with unexpected authority. "What does this mean?" Darius took a step toward her, then another, until he stood directly before her kneeling form. He reached down, and Sarah held her breath as his fingers wrapped around her wrist, pulling her to her feet. The moment his skin touched hers, the silver light beneath her skin flared brighter, and an answering glow appeared in his own veins, golden, like sunlight, twining with her silver like threads of destiny weaving together. "It means," Darius said quietly, his silver eyes locked on hers with an intensity that stole her breath, "that we have much to discuss. Privately." He turned to the assembled pack, still holding Sarah's wrist in his warm grip. "This tribunal is concluded. Sarah of the Northern Territories is declared innocent of all charges. Elder Rowan, you will launch a full investigation into how poison entered my sister's chambers. I want the real culprit found within 3 days. Yes, Alpha King. Rowan bowed deeply, though his eyes remained on Sarah with poorly concealed fear and confusion. The rest of you are dismissed, Darius commanded. Return to your homes. Speak nothing of what you witnessed here tonight until I give you leave. The pack began to disperse in hushed, hurried groups, casting backward glances at Sarah that ranged from awe to terror. She barely noticed. All her attention was focused on the man still holding her wrist, on the way their lights continued to pulse in synchronized rhythm, on the strange pull she felt toward him that was so much stronger than anything she'd experienced before. When they were finally alone in the tribunal circle, Darius released her wrist and took a step back. The loss of contact felt like a physical ache. "Follow me," he said, his voice rough. Then he turned and strode toward the palace without waiting to see if she obeyed. Sarah's legs moved on their own, following him through the moonlit gardens, up marble steps, through corridors she'd only ever cleaned, but never walked with her head held high. Guards stared as they passed, but none dared question their Alpha King. He led her to his private study, a room she'd never been allowed to enter. The door closed behind them with a decisive click, and suddenly the space felt impossibly small despite its grand proportions. Darius paced to the window, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. Sarah waited, her heart pounding, the silver light still glowing softly beneath her skin like a secret she carried in her veins. "Do you know what you are?" he finally asked, not turning to face her. "An Omega," Sarah answered. "A servant, a mother. I don't understand what happened out there." "You're not just an Omega." Darius turned now, and the expression on his face made her breath catch. "You're a silver blood. The legends say they appear once every 1,000 years, wolves blessed by the moon goddess with her own essence. They're immune to death, to poison, to any weapon forged by mortal hands. They're meant to stand beside the most powerful alphas as equals, as mates." The word hung in the air between them like a living thing. "Mates," Sarah repeated weakly. "But I'm not. I can't be." "I've known since the moment you first entered my household 3 years ago," Darius said, and his confession hit her like a physical blow. "Your scent called to my wolf in a way nothing ever has. But you were an Omega. I was a king. The laws, the traditions, the expectations. I couldn't claim you. I thought if I kept my distance, if I never acknowledged the bond, it would fade." He laughed bitterly, running a hand through his dark hair. "Instead, it's only grown stronger. Every day, watching you move through my home, smelling your scent in the corridors, hearing your voice when you spoke to the other servants. It's been torture. And then tonight, when they accused you, when they made you kneel in that circle." His eyes flashed with barely controlled rage. "I wanted to tear them all apart. Every single one of them who dared threaten you." Sarah's mind reeled. "But you said nothing. You told me to drink. You—" "Because I knew the chalice would prove your innocence." Darius cut her off, closing the distance between them in 3 long strides. "I knew it because I know you, Sarah. I've watched you for 3 years. I've seen your kindness, your strength, the way you love your son with everything you have. You're incapable of the cruelty they accused you of. But the pack needed to see it. They needed proof beyond my word." He stopped just inches from her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body, see the gold flecks in his silver eyes. "I never expected this. I never imagined you carried the moon goddess's own blessing in your veins." "I don't understand," Sarah whispered. "How is this possible? I'm nobody. My parents were Omegas. I've never shown any sign of power before this." "Sometimes the moon goddess hides her gifts until the moment they're needed most," Darius said softly. His hand rose, hesitating just before touching her cheek. "May I?" Sarah nodded, not trusting her voice. His palm cupped her face, and the instant they connected, the silver and gold lights beneath their skin exploded in a brilliant dance of color. Sarah gasped at the sensation. It was like being touched for the first time, like every nerve in her body suddenly came alive with electricity and warmth and rightness. "The mate bond," Darius breathed, his thumb stroking across her cheekbone. "It's been there all along. But now there's nothing holding it back. Can you feel it?" Sarah could. She felt it like a golden thread connecting her heart to his, pulsing with emotion and need, and a possessive claiming that should have frightened her, but instead felt like coming home. "What does this mean?" she asked. "What happens now?" "Now," Darius said, his voice dropping to a low rumble that sent shivers down her spine. "I claim what's been mine since the moment the moon goddess tied our souls together." He leaned closer, his breath ghosting across her lips. "If you'll have me, if you want this. I won't force you, Sarah. Never that. But I need you to know, if you accept this bond, if you accept me, I will never let you go. You will be my mate, my Luna, my equal in all things, and anyone who ever threatens you again will face my wrath." The possessive promise in his words should have terrified her. Instead, it ignited something primal in her newly awakened wolf, something that rose up and howled in triumph. "Yes," Sarah whispered. "Yes, I want—" She didn't get to finish. Darius's mouth claimed hers in a kiss that sent shockwaves through her entire body. The mate bond blazed between them like a supernova, and Sarah felt herself dissolving and reforming in the same instant, becoming something more than she'd been, something powerful and eternal, and his. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, the silver light beneath Sarah's skin had stabilized into a steady glow, and golden threads now twined through it, visible marks of their bond that would never fade. "I should have done this 3 years ago," Darius murmured against her temple. "I should have claimed you the moment you walked into my life." "You're claiming me now," Sarah said, surprised by the confidence in her own voice. "That's what matters." A knock at the door interrupted them, and Darius growled low in his throat. "What?" "Alpha King," a tentative voice called. "Elder Rowan requests an audience. He says it's urgent regarding Lady Morgana." Darius's expression darkened. "He can wait." "But Alpha King, I said he can wait." Darius's voice carried the weight of absolute command. "I'm with my mate. Unless the palace is burning down, I don't want to be disturbed." Silence fell on the other side of the door, then hurried footsteps retreating down the corridor. "Your mate," Sarah repeated, testing the word on her tongue. It felt strange and wonderful and terrifying all at once. "Darius, I have a son. Finn, he's 5 years old and he's the most important thing in my life. If we do this, then he becomes my son too," Darius said firmly. "I will protect him as I protect you. I will love him as I love you. He's part of you, Sarah. That makes him part of me." Tears pricked at Sarah's eyes, not of sadness, but of overwhelming relief. "I've raised him alone for so long. I never thought—" "You're not alone anymore," Darius promised, pulling her closer. "You will never be alone again." They stood like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other's arms, the mate bond humming between them like a living song. Then Sarah remembered something that sent ice through her veins. "Darius," she said urgently, pulling back to look at his face. "The poison. Someone did try to kill Lady Morgana, and they tried to frame me for it. They're still out there." His jaw tightened. "I know. Which is why, starting tomorrow, you don't leave my side. Not until we find whoever did this." "But I'm just—" "You're a silver blood," Darius corrected. And you're my mate. That makes you one of the most powerful wolves in this territory. It also, unfortunately, makes you a target." His arms tightened around her. "There are those who won't be pleased about our bond, about your elevation from Omega to Luna. They'll see you as a threat to the old ways, to the hierarchy they've clung to for centuries." "Maybe this was a mistake," Sarah said, fear creeping back in. "Maybe we should—" "No." The word was absolute. "No mistakes, no doubts. You're mine, Sarah. I've waited 3 years to claim you, and I won't wait another moment. Let them try to come for you. Let them dare." His eyes flashed with alpha power. "They'll learn very quickly what happens to anyone who threatens what belongs to me." The possessive declaration sent heat pooling low in Sarah's belly. She'd spent her entire life being overlooked, underestimated, treated as less than. Now she stood in the arms of the most powerful alpha in the territories, marked by the moon goddess herself, claimed and protected with a ferocity that stole her breath. "I need to see Finn," she said. "He was so scared this morning. I need to tell him I'm all right." "Then we'll go together," Darius said. "Where is he?" "With Mara, the kitchen master. She watches him while I work." Sarah paused. "Worked? I don't know what I'm supposed to do now." "Now," Darius said, a slight smile playing at his lips. "You prepare to become Luna. Now you learn to wield the power the moon goddess gave you. Now you help me rule this pack and protect our people." His smile faded. "And now you help me find out who poisoned my sister and tried to destroy you in the process." They found Finn in the kitchen quarters, curled up asleep on a pile of blankets in the corner of Mara's small room. The older woman's eyes went wide when she saw Sarah standing beside the Alpha King, still glowing faintly with silver light. "Sarah," Mara breathed, "we heard rumors, but I didn't believe. The tribunal. Are you—" "I'm fine," Sarah assured her, kneeling beside her sleeping son. She brushed his wild curls back from his forehead, and her heart clenched at how peaceful he looked. "More than fine." Darius crouched beside her, and Sarah felt him tense as he studied Finn's small face. "He looks like you," he said softly. "He has his father's eyes," Sarah replied, then immediately wished she hadn't. "His father?" There was a dangerous edge to Darius's voice. "He died before Finn was born," Sarah said quickly. "A border skirmish with the Eastern Pax. He was a good man. Not my mate, but he was kind to me." The tension in Darius's shoulders eased slightly. "I'm sorry. It was a long time ago." Sarah gathered Finn into her arms, and he stirred, blinking sleepily up at her. "Mama?" His small hand reached up to touch her face, then froze as he saw the silver light still glowing faintly beneath her skin. "Mama, you're glowing." "I know, baby," Sarah said, hugging him close. "Something incredible happened tonight. Something that's going to change our lives." Finn's gaze shifted to Darius, and his eyes went wide. Even at 5 years old, he could recognize the Alpha King. "Are you in trouble, Mama?" "No," Darius said before Sarah could answer. He shifted position so he was at eye level with Finn. "Your mother is a hero. She proved herself innocent tonight, and the moon goddess blessed her with a great gift." "What kind of gift?" Finn asked, his natural curiosity overcoming his shyness. "The kind that means she's very special," Darius said. "And that means you're special too. How would you like to live in the palace, Finn? With your mother and me?" Finn looked between them, confusion clear on his small face. "Why would we live with you?" "Because," Darius said, and Sarah saw something soften in his expression. "I'm going to be your new father, if that's all right with you." Sarah held her breath, waiting for Finn's reaction. Her son studied Darius with the serious intensity only children could manage, weighing and measuring in ways adults had forgotten. Finally, Finn asked, "Will you be nice to my mama?" "Always," Darius promised. "I'll protect her with my life. And you too." "And can I have a puppy?" Despite everything, Sarah laughed. "Finn?" "Yes," Darius said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "You can have a puppy." "Okay then," Finn decided, settling back against Sarah's chest. "You can be my new papa." Just like that, her son accepted what would change everything about their lives. Sarah met Darius's eyes over Finn's head and saw her own wonder reflected back at her. "Come," Darius said, rising and offering his hand. "Let's get you both settled in your new home. We have much to discuss, but it can wait until morning." Sarah took his hand, letting him pull her and Finn to their feet. Mara watched with tears streaming down her weathered face, but they were happy tears. She'd been kind to Sarah over the years, one of the few who'd treated her with basic dignity. "Thank you," Sarah told her, "for everything." "You deserve this," Mara said fiercely. "You've always deserved better than what this pack gave you." They left the kitchen quarters and made their way back through the palace. This time, Sarah walked with her head high, Finn drowsy in her arms and Darius's hand at the small of her back, a claiming touch that told everyone they passed exactly where she stood now. The whispers followed them. Sarah heard fragments. Silverblood, Luna, the Omega who glowed, blessed by the moon goddess herself. Let them talk. Let them stare. She was done living in the shadows. Darius led them to a wing of the palace Sarah had never entered before, the private royal quarters. He opened a door to reveal a suite of rooms that took her breath away. Rich fabrics in deep blues and silvers draped the windows. A bed large enough for 3 wolves stood against one wall. And through another doorway, she glimpsed a smaller room clearly meant for a child, though it had been empty until now. "This is yours," Darius said. "Ours. I'll have Finn's things brought up from your old quarters tomorrow." "We don't have much," Sarah admitted. "A few clothes, some toys. Then we'll get him new ones, whatever he needs, whatever you need." Darius watched as she laid Finn on the massive bed. The boy had already fallen back asleep, exhausted by the emotional upheaval of the day. "I should sleep with him tonight," Sarah said. "He'll be frightened if he wakes up somewhere strange." "Of course." Darius moved to the door, then hesitated. "Sarah, I want you to know, I don't expect anything from you. Not tonight. Not until you're ready. This bond between us, it's forever. We have time." The consideration in his words made her chest ache. She crossed to him, rising on her toes to press a soft kiss to his jaw. "Thank you," she whispered, "for believing in me, for waiting for me, for accepting my son." His arms came around her, gentle but possessive. "Sleep," he murmured against her hair. "Tomorrow we begin unraveling this mystery. Tomorrow you start learning what it means to be Luna. But tonight, just rest. You're safe now." He was right. For the first time in longer than she could remember, Sarah felt truly safe. She climbed into bed beside Finn, pulling him close, and watched as Darius settled into a chair by the window, standing guard even though he'd promised her rest. As her eyes drifted closed, the silver light still pulsing softly beneath her skin, Sarah thought about everything that had changed in the span of a few hours. This morning, she'd been a nobody Omega. Tonight, she was a silver blood, the Alpha King's mate, destined to be Luna. This morning, she'd faced death. Tonight, she discovered she was immune to it. The traitor's chalice had turned silver in her throat, revealing a truth no one, not even Sarah herself, had known existed. She was blessed by the moon goddess. She was powerful beyond measure, and she was claimed by a king who'd waited 3 years to make her his. As sleep finally claimed her, wrapped in luxury she'd never dreamed of touching, her son safe beside her and her mate watching over them both, Sarah smiled. Whatever came next, whatever enemies lurked in the shadows, whatever challenges awaited a Luna who'd risen from nothing, she would face it all. Because she was Sarah of the Northern Territories no longer. She was Sarah, Silver Blood, Sarah, Luna Queen, Sarah, blessed and beloved and unbreakable. And her story was only just beginning. Morning came too quickly, harsh sunlight spilling through the windows and dragging Sarah from sleep. Finn still slumbered beside her, his small chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm, but the chair by the window sat empty. Darius had left sometime in the night. Before Sarah could process the strange mixture of disappointment and relief she felt at his absence, the door burst open with enough force to make her jolt upright. Darius strode in, his face a mask of controlled fury, and behind him trailed 3 guards dragging a struggling woman between them. Sarah's blood turned to ice. It was Lyanna, Lady Morgana's personal handmaiden. The same woman who'd helped train Sarah when she first started working in the palace, who'd shared meals with her in the servants' quarters, who'd smiled and laughed and pretended friendship. "Tell her," Darius commanded, his voice lethal. "Tell my mate what you did." Lyanna's face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks, but Sarah saw the calculation behind them, the desperate search for an escape that didn't exist. "I don't know what you mean, Alpha King. I would never—" "We found the poison in your quarters." Darius cut her off. "Hidden in a false bottom of your jewelry box. Nightsbane and silver root, mixed with enough wolfsbane to kill a dozen wolves. The same mixture found in my sister's system." Sarah slid out of bed carefully, making sure not to wake Finn. Her mind raced, trying to understand. "But why? Lyanna, I thought we were friends. Why would you try to kill Lady Morgana and frame me for it?" "Friends?" Lyanna spat, and the mask finally cracked completely, revealing the hatred beneath. "You think we were friends? You, with your perfect humility, your quiet suffering, always so grateful for any scrap of kindness? Do you know how sickening it was to watch everyone praise you? Poor Sarah, so brave raising her son alone. Poor Sarah, so hardworking and kind. Meanwhile, I've served this palace for 15 years, and no one sees me. No one notices." "So you tried to murder the Alpha King's sister out of jealousy?" Sarah asked, disbelief coloring her words. "I tried to murder you," Lyanna corrected viciously. "The poison was meant for you. But that stupid girl changed the tea rotation at the last minute, and Lady Morgana drank from the pot I'd prepared for your evening rounds." She laughed bitterly. Then I thought, maybe this is better. Maybe if Lady Morgana dies and you take the blame, I get rid of you anyway. Darius moved faster than Sarah's eyes could track, his hand wrapping around Lyanna's throat. The guards released her, stepping back as their Alpha King's rage filled the room like a physical presence. "You poisoned my sister. You tried to frame an innocent woman. You nearly caused the death of my mate." "Your mate?" Lyanna choked out, her eyes widening as she finally noticed the silver light still glowing faintly beneath Sarah's skin, the golden threads twining through it. "No. No, that's impossible. She's nothing. She's just an Omega who spreads her legs and—" The crack of Darius's palm across Lyanna's face echoed through the chamber. "You will show respect to your Luna, or I will remove your tongue before I remove your head." "Darius," Sarah said softly, and he immediately turned to her, his rage banking at the sound of her voice. "Is Lady Morgana going to survive?" His expression softened fractionally. "The healers say yes. Now that they know what poison was used, they can counter it. She should wake within the week." Relief flooded through Sarah. Whatever Lyanna's twisted motivations, at least Morgana would live. "Then let the law decide her fate. Don't bloody your hands with her execution. You're a king, not an executioner. Something like pride flickered in Darius's eyes. He released Lyanna, letting her collapse to the floor, gasping. Take her to the dungeons, he commanded the guards. She'll face tribunal at sunset. The pack will decide her punishment. As the guards dragged Lyanna away, still sobbing and cursing, Darius turned back to Sarah. You show mercy to someone who tried to destroy you. I show justice, Sarah corrected. There's a difference. Besides, she glanced back at Finn, who was starting to stir. I don't want my son to wake up and see violence. He's seen enough hardship in his short life. Darius crossed to her, cupping her face in both hands. You're going to be an incredible Luna, he murmured, stronger than anyone expects, wiser than anyone gives you credit for. I'm terrified, Sarah admitted. Good. That means you understand the weight of what we're about to do. He pressed his forehead to hers, and the mate bond hummed between them, warm and reassuring. But you won't do it alone. We do this together. A small voice interrupted them. Mama? Why is everyone here so early? Sarah turned to find Finn sitting up in bed, rubbing his eyes and looking adorably confused. Good morning, baby. Come here. Finn scrambled off the massive bed and ran to her, and Sarah scooped him up, balancing him on her hip even though he was getting almost too big for it. Remember what we talked about last night? About how things are going to change? About the puppy? Finn asked hopefully. Despite everything, Sarah laughed. Yes, about the puppy, but also about other things. About how we're going to live here now, in the palace. About how Darius is going to be your new father. And you're going to marry him? Finn asked with a child's blunt curiosity. Sarah's eyes met Darius's over her son's head. They hadn't actually discussed that yet. The mate bond was one thing, but a formal marriage ceremony was another. A public declaration before the entire pack. Yes, Darius said firmly, answering both Finn and Sarah at once. We're going to marry. As soon as possible. I want the entire pack to witness it, to see their Luna claimed and crowned. His gaze intensified on Sarah. If that's what you want? Yes, Sarah breathed. Yes, that's what I want. The next week passed in a whirlwind. Lady Morgana woke from her coma on the third day, weak but recovering, and her first words were to demand that Sarah be brought to her chambers. When Sarah arrived, nervous and uncertain, Morgana had pulled her into a fierce embrace. I heard what happened, she'd said, tears streaming down her pale face. I heard what Lyanna tried to do to you. Sarah, I'm so sorry. If I'd known she harbored such darkness... It's not your fault, Sarah had assured her. None of us knew. But you're my brother's mate now. Morgana had pulled back, studying Sarah with sharp eyes that were so like Darius's. You're going to be my sister, and I want you to know. I approve. Darius has been alone for too long. He's been waiting for you for too long. I'm glad he finally claimed you. The acceptance had meant more than Sarah could express. Lyanna's tribunal had been brief. With the evidence overwhelming and her own confession witnessed by the Alpha King and 3 guards, the Pack Council sentenced her to permanent exile. She would be stripped of her wolf and cast out into human lands, to live the rest of her mortal life without pack, without family, without the moon's blessing. For a wolf, it was a fate worse than death. Sarah had watched the sentence carried out, standing beside Darius with Finn holding her hand, and felt nothing but relief that the threat was over. Now, 7 days after drinking from the Traitor's Chalice, Sarah stood in a preparation chamber wearing a dress that made her breath catch every time she glimpsed her reflection. Silver silk that seemed to glow with its own inner light, embroidered with golden thread that matched the marks of her mate bond. Her dark hair had been woven with moonflowers, and someone had painted delicate silver designs on her arms that mimicked the light flowing beneath her skin. You look like a goddess, Morgana said from behind her, and Sarah turned to find the Alpha King's sister smiling, still pale from her ordeal but growing stronger each day. My brother is going to lose his mind when he sees you. I can't believe this is real, Sarah whispered. A week ago, I was a servant. Now I'm about to be crowned Luna in front of the entire pack. You were always meant for this, Morgana said firmly. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes, Sarah. She marked you as a silver blood because she knew you had the strength to stand beside my brother, to rule beside him, to be what this pack needs. A knock at the door interrupted them, and one of the ceremony attendants poked her head in. Luna, it's time. Luna. The title still felt foreign on Sarah's tongue, but she was learning to wear it. She'd spent the past week in intensive training, learning pack law, studying the history of their territories, meeting with the elders and council members who would advise her. Some had welcomed her warmly. Others had been coolly polite, their disapproval of an Omega rising to Luna barely concealed. Let them disapprove, Sarah thought as she walked through the palace corridors toward the Great Hall. She'd proven herself innocent. She'd been blessed by the moon goddess, and she had an Alpha King who would burn down the world for her. The Great Hall doors opened and Sarah's breath caught. Thousands of pack members filled the space, all turned toward her, their eyes reflecting the silver light that still pulsed beneath her skin. And at the end of the long aisle, standing beneath an archway woven from silver birch and moonflowers, waited Darius. He wore formal ceremonial robes in deep black and gold, and his silver eyes locked onto her the moment she appeared. The mate bond surged between them, and Sarah saw his hands clench at his sides, as if it took every ounce of his control not to stride down the aisle and claim her right then. Beside Darius stood Finn, wearing a tiny version of the ceremonial robes, and her son's gap-toothed grin gave Sarah the courage to take the first step forward. The walk down that aisle felt eternal and instantaneous all at once. Every eye in the hall followed her progress, but Sarah only saw Darius, only felt the pull of the bond drawing her toward him like gravity, like destiny, like coming home after a lifetime of wandering. When she finally reached him, Darius took her hands in his, and the silver and gold lights beneath their skin exploded in brilliant radiance that drew gasps from the assembled pack. Sarah, Darius said, his voice carrying through the hall with alpha command, but softened with an emotion that made her chest ache. From the moment you entered my life, you've been the moon to my sun, the light in my darkness. For 3 years I waited. For 3 years I watched you from afar, knowing you were mine but unable to claim you. Tonight, before the moon goddess and our entire pack, I claim you as my mate, my Luna, my equal in all things. Do you accept this bond? Do you accept me? Yes, Sarah said, her voice strong and clear. I accept you, Darius. I accept this bond. I accept the responsibility of standing beside you as Luna, of protecting our pack, of ruling with wisdom and strength. I am yours, as you are mine, for as long as the moon rises and the stars shine. The pack erupted in howls of approval, the sound deafening and beautiful. Darius pulled her close, his hand tangling in her hair as he kissed her with a possessive intensity that sent heat flooding through her veins. The mate bond solidified between them like forged steel, unbreakable and eternal. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Elder Rowan stepped forward carrying a silver circlet woven with moonstones. By the power vested in me by the Moon Goddess and the Pack Council, I crown you Luna Queen of the Northern Territories. He placed the circlet on Sarah's head, and the moment the silver touched her skin, her power surged. The silver light beneath her skin blazed brighter than ever before, and she felt something shift inside her, a connection to every pack member present, a web of bonds that tied her to them all as their Luna, their protector, their queen. My Luna, Darius said, possession and pride clear in his voice. My mate, my love. My Alpha, Sarah replied. My king, my heart. Finn tugged on both their robes, and they looked down to find him beaming up at them. Can we get the puppy now? The hall erupted in laughter, the tension and formality breaking into genuine joy. Darius scooped Finn up onto his shoulders, one hand still holding Sarah's. Yes, he said, now we can get the puppy. The celebration lasted long into the night. Sarah danced with her new mate, accepted congratulations from pack members who'd once barely acknowledged her existence, and watched with a full heart as Finn ran wild with the other pack children, finally free from the fear and uncertainty that had shadowed his early years. As the moon reached its zenith, Darius pulled her away from the crowd and out onto a private balcony. The sounds of celebration drifted up from below, but here they were alone, wrapped in silver moonlight and each other. Happy? He asked, his arms circling her waist from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. Terrified, Sarah admitted, overwhelmed, grateful, in love. She turned in his arms to face him. Yes, I'm happy. Good. Darius kissed her forehead, her cheeks, the tip of her nose. Because I intend to spend the rest of our very long lives making sure you stay that way. You, me, and Finn. Our family. Our family, Sarah repeated, testing the words. They felt right. Perfect. She thought about the traitor's chalice, about the moment she'd drunk from it expecting death and found power instead. She thought about the silver light that now flowed through her veins, marking her as blessed by the moon goddess herself. She thought about her son, sleeping peacefully tonight in quarters fit for a prince, protected by an entire pack and loved by a king who'd claimed him as his own. A week ago, Sarah had knelt in a tribunal circle, prepared to die for a crime she didn't commit. Tonight, she stood crowned as Luna Queen, mated to the most powerful alpha in the territories, blessed with immortality and power beyond measure. The poison that was meant to destroy her had instead revealed her true nature. The chalice that should have condemned her had crowned her instead. And the king who'd waited 3 years in silent agony had finally claimed his mate. As Darius carried her back inside, back toward their chambers and the life they would build together, Sarah smiled against his shoulder. She was Sarah, the silver blood now, Luna Queen, blessed and beloved and unbreakable. And her story, their story, was only just beginning. But this chapter, this beautiful, impossible, perfect chapter, had reached its happy ending. The traitor's chalice had turned silver in her throat, and she'd become immune to all death. But more than that, she'd become immune to fear, to doubt, to the cruel limitations a broken world had tried to place on her. She'd become exactly what she was always meant to be. She'd become herself. Did you like the story? Do you want a part 2? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, tell us which state you're watching from, so I can give you a shout out in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay updated on our next uploads. Thanks for watching.